Hello and welcome to the Oakland County Megacast. Alongside Ronnie Dahl, I'm Tyler Keefe in the studios of Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM, our flagship TV and radio studios on the Oakland County Megacast family of community television and radio networks. In addition, we are joined as always by 88.1 WBFH, the Biff, a service of the Bloomfield Hills School District with operations out of Bloomfield Hills High School. In addition, we're joined on television by Birmingham Area Municipal Access, and you can watch both Birmingham Area Municipal Access and Civic Center TV on Comcast Channel 15 and AT&T Channel 99, as well as on and you can watch Civic Center TV as well, my apologies, on civiccentertv.com. You go to our website and you click on the Watch Live link, and you'll be able to see the program live in high definition. In addition, on civiccentertv.com/megacast, you can watch full episodes, interviews, and clips from each and every edition of the Oakland County Megacast. We have yesterday's version. We have even our first interviews in the show's history up there. So if you ever miss an interview, just go to civiccentertv.com/megacast, and we will have all the episodes, all the interviews, and all the short clips, so that no matter what you are looking for from the Oakland County Megacast, it will be there for you, including today's headlines. Governor Whitmer's new mask order goes into effect today. Refusing to wear a mask covering in Michigan can now get you up to a $500 fine. Executive Order 2020-147 mandates that individuals are required to wear a facial covering whenever they are in an indoor public space or in a crowded outdoor space when proper social distancing cannot be observed. Businesses are expected to deny service or to an individual not obeying, and anyone found to be in violation of the order could face a misdemeanor charge with a $500 criminal penalty. In a statement, Governor Whitmer said, quote, "Masks can reduce the chances of spreading COVID-19 by about 70%. By wearing masks, we can save lives and protect our family, friends, and neighbors." So again, and we'll talk with we'll talk about this with our guests today as well, Ronnie. The problem still is, how do you enforce this? Because businesses, of course, now are required by the law to refuse entry to anybody that's not wearing a facial covering or that refuses to wear a facial covering under these guidelines. But some people are not going to be denied entry, and they're going to do whatever they can to still get into that facility, and that's when it becomes a local law enforcement issue, and it also becomes, in many ways, a immediate safety issue beyond just public health.
Well, you have to remember, too, there are some people that cannot wear a face covering due to a health reason. So if you go into an establishment and they say you need a face covering, but you say, well, no, I have a health issue, are they allowed to then say, no, you can't? And how do you know who's lying, who's not lying? Because on the other side of that, you can't ask someone what their health condition is due to the HIPAA rules and regulations. So that's going to be a sticking point, and we're already seeing where there are some law enforcement agencies that are saying, we're not going to enforce this. So it really puts, you know who you really feel bad for? The employees. If you're working at a regular drugstore or a grocery store and someone comes in and they refuse to wear it, they're going to be the ones that have to ask you to go ahead and put your face covering on. And I will say, I was at the drugstore this weekend and a guy walked in without one, and she had to ask him to leave, and he did. He complied. But I can see where it can get uncomfortable for some of these employees.
We've seen a lot of those examples in the media recently about people that have had incidents where they are asked to leave, or they're asked just to simply wear a mask, and they completely lose their mind about it, and they have a tantrum, so to speak, in regards to that. And that can, in many ways, create a dangerous situation, because not only is it a public health concern with people not keeping social distance, not wearing facial coverings, and potentially spreading the virus, but some people do get violent. They are throwing objects. They are throwing their hands and their fists around, too. So it's a really complicated situation, and this new law certainly doesn't take away from the complications.
Well, just like you have a placard for your car to be able to park in a handicap zone, it seems like if you have a health issue, they should have something that can identify you for that position so it doesn't put these employees or people into an awkward situation such as that. And if it's issued by the doctor, then you know it is legitimate at that point in time. So this is going to be interesting going forward to see how this all plays out in the coming days. If anything, though, for the people who don't want to wear one of these masks, if you don't believe, or if you believe it's an infringement on your rights, just maybe look at it as, can I just be kind to the person who is behind the counter so that I'm not putting them in a hard situation? Do it out of kindness.
Yeah, and even if you don't agree with the law, you don't agree with wearing your masks, the least you can do is not kill the messenger in this situation, not hurt the messenger. They're just doing their job and trying to do their part to keep the community safe. Other things making news today: the pandemic is creating new challenges for the upcoming election. The coronavirus pandemic is creating new challenges for local area clerks. In 2018, voters approved same-day voter registration and no-reason absentee voting. With COVID-19 still a concern, requests for absentee ballots have surged. The Secretary of State's office reported over 1.5 million requests ahead of the August 4th primary, more than 3.5 times the number at the same time in 2016. Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson said, quote, "We are doing everything we can to really quickly adjust to a lot of new things for our clerks and our voters." A lot of people taking advantage of this new ability to have same-day registration and no reason absentee voting in particular is the big one. And I think the pandemic definitely is contributing to that.
Yeah, there are a lot of challenges going forward with this. I will say I like to go to the polls because it's that, I don't know, it's a sense of pride to be able to actually stand in there and go into the, and cast your ballot. I remember going with my parents when I was a little kid and thinking it was so cool and such a grown-up thing to be able to do and to participate in the election. So I do like being able to go and then feed my actual ballot in. So you understand the people, though, with the coronavirus, but expect some really long lines. Even the ones that aren't going to do an absentee ballot, you can expect some long lines. And the other thing is, we're probably not going to have these super fast results coming out of this because it's going to take time to count all of these absentee ballots. So it's going to be a longer wait time to figure out who wins some of these races.
It's going to be a little extra time, a little more extra checks just to make sure that these are legitimate ballots as well. I know that's been a concern for people, and I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of extra steps that are being taken along the way to ensure the safety of these votes. Lastly, Michigan's eviction moratorium is to be lifted this week. Advocates for renters expect a flooding of eviction filings as the state's eviction moratorium lifts later on this week. It's estimated that there's a backlog of 75,000 filings. The eviction ban was first imposed on March 20th. Even as funding to help renters flows to tenants and landlords, renters advocates worry that the support won't be enough to keep people in their homes for much longer. The wave, quote, the wave will be so strong that the measures that the court has taken and then the new housing program that the state has created won't be enough to fully blunt the wave, said Jim Shefsma, the attorney with the Michigan Poverty Law Program. This is going to be a huge problem, not just in our local area and in the state of Michigan, but all across the country, Ronnie.
Yeah. So they are going to try to prioritize some of these filings that come into the courts as they're being filed, but there is going to be a backlog, and at the end of the day, a lot, because you have to remember too, it's not just the tenants, but the landlords are really caught up in this as well, because maybe their mortgages are still due, and there's maybe they lost their job on top of it as well. So there are so many facets to this. No one wants to be homeless during this time. And then if you are homeless, trying to find a new job or new housing on top of all of that is just the wave of problems behind it. It's not just the homelessness, but as this continues, I would say from here until the end of the year, we're going to see these filings continue to file up. State of Michigan has promised millions of dollars more, but that is such a drop in the bucket for the number of people that actually need help.
Yeah, it's going to be a huge issue in the state of Michigan, all throughout the country even. as people are trying to stay in their homes, and as these landlords are also trying to maintain their facilities and not put themselves in an inopportune situation where either A, they have to evict people because they're financially strapped and they need to get new tenants in there to keep the rent dollars flowing in so they can pay their mortgages, or other issues, or just the fact that they have not received rent payments and they're not able to keep up, and the only way to keep costs down is to reduce the number of tenants. So a lot of issues on the housing front, but that's not the only front that there are issues right now with the coronavirus. Also on the education front as well. And joining us now to talk about that and more is Walled Lake Consolidated School District Superintendent Kenneth Gutman with us once again on the Oakland County Megacast. Superintendent Gutman, how are you today?
I'm doing fantastic, Tyler. How are you?
Doing well. How are your educators doing as well? It's a tough time for them.
I'm not sure I have the right answer for that at this point. A lot of people are on summer break, and I think everybody's just really nervous trying to figure out what's going to happen when we reopen.
Last week, the governor and attorney general announced the state is joining 4 other states in a lawsuit against Betsy DeVos, the Secretary of Education for the United States, claiming that the U.S. Department of Education is attempting to reroute CARES Act funding from public schools to private learning institutions. Your thoughts on Secretary DeVos's interpretation of the CARES Act funding and how that may impact school districts like Walled Lake?
I support the lawsuit. We certainly have I do believe that our non-public schools, the people who attend those do pay taxes, and they should be able to recuperate some of the money. However, it needs to be done in an equitable formula, and Secretary DeVos her formula is not equitable. And so I support the lawsuit, think we're doing the right thing.
What are your plans going forward in the fall?
Good morning, Ronnie. So we have a committee of about 80 people right now finalizing those plans, interpreting the governor's roadmap. I assume, and I don't have the final version before me, I'll be getting that in the next week or so. I'm sure we're going to have a fully virtual option for parents who don't feel comfortable sending their children, and also a 5-day-a-week in-person plan. I'm sure we'll have a hybrid plan on the back burner, but I don't think that will be one of the predominant plans coming forward from this committee, from what I hear so far.
So one of the big issues right now, before you even get the kids in the classrooms, we also do a lot of school sports. How is your district addressing that? And do you see sports happening in the fall?
So we do have a plan. We have some of our teams practicing right now. They're following social distancing, temperatures, the whole deal. They're doing it the right way. And if someone were to test positive, there is a procedure for that as well, with notification to everyone, as well as a plan to quarantine them again before they could return. So we have that going on. The bigger question, Ronnie, is what happens in the fall. I would love to see athletics return. I think there's such great spirit when you look at a Friday night football game or some of our other athletics. But do I see it happening? Gosh, I don't know. I tend to doubt it. I know that the Big Ten has cut down its schedule. The Big Ten commissioner has said, I'm not sure it's going to happen. I don't know that high school athletics happens, especially if college athletics is not something that's going to be happening.
What about busing? That's one thing I always wonder, because how can you separate kids, do social distance on a bus when the seats are so close together? Or will you limit how many kids are on a bus?
So there aren't enough buses in the state of Michigan for every district to have social distancing on a bus. It's just not possible to have social distancing on a bus. And so I look forward to seeing what our district's final plan is as our committee puts it together. But I do not anticipate that there's any way we'll be able to socially distance and still transport all of our students to school.
Kenneth Gutman with us on the Oakland County Megacast. He is the superintendent of the Walled Lake Consolidated School District. In addition to Betsy DeVos's interpretation of the CARES Act, last week on the state of Michigan front, the governor recently, not last week, but in the recent weeks, released her Return to Learn Council's plans for the fall and released their Michigan Safe Schools Return to Learn roadmap, as they called it. How's that going to impact Walled Lake's plans for fall?
I think it's a great roadmap. I think the governor and her committee did a fantastic job. We're really, really happy with what they did, because it not only gives us some guidelines and some suggestions, but it also allows for local control. And we always advocate for local control. And so our committee is working to interpret that to make sure that its plan fits within the governor's plan. And we look forward to sharing that with our community in the very near future.
One thing we like to do is, out of every negative, there's a positive. Out of this crisis, what has your district learned that you think will lead to positive change down the road?
Well, we've learned that we can deliver virtual instruction, and it's certainly never going to replace face-to-face instruction. Our staff members have been unbelievable. Our teachers, our administrators done a great job with that, but virtual instruction can happen. What that means for the future of snow days may make students less happy. So there's that. We've also seen that the human spirit, the community spirit has been tremendously high. Our staff put out hundreds of thousands of meals, turned around on a dime and delivered virtual instruction. And our community just kept contacting us saying, what can we do to help? What can we do to help? Donating money, donating their time. We had just a whole slew of volunteers. It just warms the heart that at a time of crisis, the Walled Lake Consolidated School District family, the entire community came together to help children.
One thing that came out of this, too, is the digital divide. There are so many kids that just didn't have access to computers at home or a solid internet connection. How have you been able to address that issue in your district?
We did give out, I want to say 1,000 Chromebooks to families that didn't have access. But we did find that we had about 95% participation in online activities. But the reality is until you have 100%, you're not doing what's best for every child. And so we need to find a way to bridge that gap. We know that we're in far better shape than a lot of places with that kind of participation, but even one child shouldn't be lost in this whole shuffle.
These kids are really resilient. I will say I'm sitting here thinking of the snow days, and they do that little game where you put an ice cube in the toilet and all those little fun things that, like you said, will probably now go away because you can learn at home. Do you think, what about testing and all of this? I don't think we've really heard much about how this virtual teaching could impact the testing requirements for some of these kids. And also, the ACT, the SAT, how does that impact those programs as well?
Well, as far as the ACT and the SAT, we've asked our state, and our state has lobbied our Secretary of Education to not do not do standardized testing in the fall. And so ACT, SAT, we think should be offered at some point, but in-person standardized testing in the fall should be waived so we can focus on children. We also know that authentic testing is more than a typical exam where you sit down and take what we used to just call a test, that there are authentic ways of assessing student learning, and it's much more difficult to do so virtually. But I think we're going to get a lot better at it. There's no doubt we're going to get much better at this because we're going to have many more opportunities to do this. We're not done with virtual instruction. In fact, we'll continue to do it over the next several years, I'm sure, and particularly this year.
Kenneth Gutman with us on the Oakland County Megacast. In the state budget, Governor Whitmer and Republicans in the legislature came to an agreement on hundreds of millions of dollars of federal CARES Act money that the state will be forwarding to the high school. To the school system in the state of Michigan. What will those funds do to help school districts like Walled Lake get ready for the fall and maybe make up some of those funds that were lost in budgetary cuts this year?
Well, we anticipate that we'll get some funds for PPE and that sort of thing. The difficulty is, Tyler, we know that our budget will be cut from last year to some degree, and we know that going forward, we don't have a budget. So I've talked about this on here before, so I won't belabor it, but we are in July 13th. Our school year starts July 1st, and we don't know how much money we have this year, and we know there's over $1 billion shortfall in the school aid fund. And so without knowing how much funding we have and knowing that the requirements for school districts are significantly more than they were before, not just in terms of PPE, but in terms of social emotional needs of students and staff, we're not in a good place financially. And so we would implore our federal government and our state government to find a way to fund schools so we can take care of our children.
How do you go forward in this case then, not knowing how much money you have for this year, because you want to be cautious so that you're not blowing money away, and then you end up with these huge cuts, and you're in a huge, and you're in a big hole. But at the same time, you don't want to be too cautious and then realize, oh no, we could have had all these other programs in place. We didn't need to lay off all these people or reduce all these programs. So what do you do as a school district in that case, so you're being cautious but not too cautious without knowing the money you have?
So the difficulty is we have to have a balanced budget sent to the state of Michigan by June 30th. So we've already had to make reductions. We had to lay off nearly 50 teachers, and we have such outstanding educators that it's just disturbing to lay off some of these teachers whom we know are just really good for kids. We've had to cut some programs. We've had to reduce some administrative positions. We've done all of this because we have to balance the budget. We would like nothing more than to be able to restore these positions, to be able to call our staff members back, to lower class sizes. All of that can happen if we are able to find the funding, particularly, I'm guessing, federally, in terms of a stimulus package for education that's unrestricted. But we had no choice but to make reductions by June 30th, or we would not have been able to send a balanced budget to the state of Michigan.
Kenneth Gutman with us on the Oakland County Megacast on a family of TV and radio stations all throughout the local area. Today we're also on the Facebook page of the Walled Lake Consolidated School District. So with the recent uptick in cases, Superintendent Gutman, any worries about the potential of having kids and having educators back in the buildings in the fall? And I know you mentioned before that you're working right now on a date to make that final decision. But what factors are going in? Because some schools are saying, okay, we'll have half capacity on in-person days, and the other people will be virtual, and half capacity on other days, and vice versa. But even with half capacity and social distancing and mask wearing, there's still potential to spread. And if the cases are continuing to spike by the time school's coming around, what's going to be the case then? Are schools just going to be entirely closed again like they were through March? And are we better equipped now than we were in March to deal with that?
That's a really good series of questions, and I don't think anybody has the answers yet. The reality is we're going to have a plan in the next week or so, week and a half, that outlines what we're going to do in the fall, and it'll be a combination of virtual and in-person. However, that plan's only as good as the day it's written. And the reality is, as cases continue to spike, at the point in which, and I'm quite sure our governor's been very clear that she won't send students to school in person if cases continue to rise. So we're going to err on the side of safety for our students and staff. I worry about our teachers. We can talk about the safety of our students, which is paramount. We understand that's the most important thing we can do is provide a safe environment for students and staff. The reality is our staff members are older than our students, are more susceptible potentially, and so we need to protect them as well. I'm very concerned about that, but I also know that we need to watch the numbers and work with our local and our state government and work with our governor to make the best decision to keep everybody safe.
So do you think it would be better to almost approach at least the first half of the year with a virtual plan instead of possibly going in half and half and then having to pull back? Because I would think that you want some type of consistency for the kids.
It really depends on where the numbers are as we start approaching the school year in another, 6 weeks? Because at home, virtual learning, while our teachers do a fantastic job with it, no doubt about that, it's also difficult for students, a lot of students, to learn that way, one. And two, the psychological effects of being home also creates an issue for our students. So when we talk about better, sure, maybe health-wise it would be better. And if that's the case, then we need to keep everyone home. And at the same time, in terms of learning, it's not better to be home. So, but again, what will drive us is the health and safety of our students and staff. And we won't be able to make that call until we get closer to the first day. If cases continue to escalate as they are, and we continue to see an upward trend, I can't imagine schools would open across the state of Michigan, across the country.
One thing we have seen, and we have talked to other school leaders about this as well, when you're dealing with kids, they are kids. Like even today, I'll see kids out with their mask on. It's kind of like up over their nose, over their eyes, down over their chin. How are you going to be able to convince kids and to teach kids to wear a mask in a classroom all day?
Good question. If you have the answer and would like to share it, I would really appreciate it. We know that's going to be a challenge. We understand that there's some flexibility with early childhood, but we also know that this is a new reality. We would expect, and I fully endorse wearing a mask. I know there are those who are concerned about it, and there are those who will ask us to make sure students don't. And we certainly have an allowance for students who are not medically able to wear a mask. We're going to try to accommodate every one of our children. But trying to keep a mask on a third grader, a kindergartner, a high school senior will be a challenge, and it's something we're going to have to work through.
Kenneth Gutman, Superintendent of the Walled Lake Consolidated School District, with us on the Oakland County Megacast. Before we let you go, anything else, Superintendent?
I just appreciate the opportunity to talk to you again. I'm really grateful to work in a community that supports education and cares about our children. We're going to do everything we can to educate our children, and we certainly look for the input and opinions of our community as well. We always encourage them to email us at info@wlcsd.org. We welcome your partnership and really appreciate you.
Well, thank you for being on with us today.
Thank you.
Superintendent Kenneth Gutman from the Walled Lake Consolidated School District with us on the Oakland County Megacast. We'll take a quick break, and when we return, we'll be speaking with Joe Bauman from the Birmingham Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce. You are watching and listening to the Oakland County Megacast on a family of TV and radio stations.
Hi, my name is Kurt Lawson, and I'm the Public Information Officer for West Bloomfield Township. We wanted to reach out to you, our older adults, to provide information that you may find useful during this difficult time. We want to ensure you that West Bloomfield Town Hall, our Waters and Utility Department, West Bloomfield Parks, and our police and fire departments continue to work hard on your behalf. Information and resources can be found on the Township website, the police Facebook and Twitter, or call West Bloomfield Park's COVID-19 Help Hotline. Please remember to keep your social distance of at least 6 feet, wear facial coverings when you leave your home, and wash your hands for at least 20 seconds with soap. These precautions will help keep you safe during these difficult times.
Hi, I'm Dr. Faust, the Medical Director for the Oakland County Health Division. The most important thing you can do to prevent the spread of illness is to wash your hands thoroughly and often. Follow these 6 easy steps every time you wash your hands. Step 1, turn on the sink and wet your hands with warm water. Step 2, apply soap to your hands and lather between your fingers, under your nails, and the front and back of your hands and wrists. Step 3, wash your hands by scrubbing them together for at least 20 seconds. Step 4, rinse your hands with warm, clean water. And step 5, dry your hands with a clean cloth towel, a paper towel, or hot air blow dryer. If you're using a cloth towel, make sure to change it often. For handheld faucets, turn off the water using a paper towel instead of your bare hand. Step 6, if you're using a paper towel, throw it away. Practice healthy habits like washing your hands after coughing or sneezing into them to keep you and others healthy. Go to oakgov.com/health or call Nurse on Call at 1-800-848-5533 to learn more.
Welcome back to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe alongside Ronnie Dahl. On a family of TV and radio stations on Civic Center TV and Birmingham Area Municipal Access, as well as on 89.3 Lakes FM and 88.1 WBFH The Biff. Today we're also on the Facebook page of the Walled Lake Consolidated School District, and thank Ken Gutman and their entire team for joining us once again on today's edition of the Oakland County Megacast. So with shutdowns potentially looming, if the coronavirus pandemic doesn't continue to progress forward as we had been doing well before these recent spikes, and with new orders in place to enforce social distancing and facial covering measures, businesses in our communities have been heavily affected and are currently working through some potential troubleshooting for future issues that may arise as a result. Joining us now to talk about that and more is Birmingham Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce President Joe Bauman with us on the Oakland County Megacast. Joe, thank you for being with us again today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So
Appreciate it.
How are you? How are your local businesses doing?
They're doing better. Things are slowly coming back in terms of foot traffic and sales, so we're hopeful for that. You had mentioned just in your intro the governor's new order related to mandatory wearing of face masks. That's a big concern for us, for the local business owners, because not only are they subject to penalty if they don't enforce the rule, but they can also be subject to losing their business license if they don't enforce it. And so it's putting them in a position of being the law enforcement arm of the order, and that's very concerning to us.
Joe, how will they address enforcement of that? Because at a certain point, if people are not listening to the employees on site, then there's going to be secondary issues. So is it better to just immediately go through local law enforcement if there's not kind compliance, let's call it, from the patrons that are coming in and don't want to wear masks or maintain social distance? Or is there concern there that things might get ugly in some situations?
Well, we hope and we implore our shoppers and our restaurant patrons to realize that wearing a face mask is no longer an option. It's no longer a topic for debate. It's a statewide law. And blaming the business owner or expressing your frustration or anger toward them or their staff is just simply unacceptable. They're not doing it because they want to. They're now being compelled with the possible fine and loss of their ability to operate their business if they don't. So we implore, people in the general public, regardless of what your personal feelings are about masks, that you wear a mask. And if you aren't comfortable doing that, then please don't visit a business. It's that simple. In terms of what are we telling our members to do if there is having a problem, this just went into effect at midnight or 12:01, I guess, this morning. Our recommendation to our business owners and our restaurant owners, as difficult as it is if they have a patron that is refusing to wear a mask, that they call 911 and they contact their local law enforcement and let them deal with it, because they're trained in de-escalation. They're trained in how to deal with those kinds of situations. A 20-year-old restaurant hostess is not trained on how to de-escalate a situation when they're confronted by an angry patron. So that's our recommendation going forward is you ask them to please wear a mask. If they decline, you ask them to leave. If they don't, you pick up the phone and you call 911. We want to keep our business owners and employees safe.
Joe, is there any type of discussion as well around patrons who say they can't wear one due to a medical reason, and the conversation that the businesses and their employees should be having with those patrons?
Yeah, so the general guideline is if someone tells you they're not medically able to wear a mask, you either, if you're a store, you provide them with a curbside pickup option, or if it's a restaurant, you find a private area that ensures that they're at least 6 feet social distance from other patrons. Again, this is going to be a problem. What do you do if everybody comes in and says they're not medically able to wear a mask? I mean, the business owners and the employees, they have no way of determining whether somebody can wear a mask or not. So we're just really imploring the general public and the customers to do the right thing. And if you're going to visit a store or a restaurant, wear a mask.
Are you worried at all, or are some of these businesses worried that this is another step back in the business side of things? Or is it also leading to some frustrations with business owners that were maybe on the edge or on the brink of closing, and now they're saying, I'm just done?
Well, you have to remember, according to the governor, the reason why we're doing this is so we don't step back. We don't go back to phase 3 where, stores and public places are closed. This is kind of like let's see what happens. And so if this doesn't work, then we're probably going to be having a different conversation. But the idea behind compelling people to wear a mask is to slow the spread of the virus so we don't have to go back to phase 3 and we don't have to go back to stay-at-home order. restaurants. Because if we go back to another stay-home order and our businesses and restaurants have to close for another month or two, that certainly will be much more devastating economically than a mandatory mask law.
It seems that the public is getting more comfortable and used to having to deal with the rules and regulations surrounding the pandemic and eating out and curbside service, and businesses have been great at countering that. And it seems like they're starting to get momentum in some of the restaurants with the curbside service. What about the small mom and pop shops, especially in Birmingham? They're so unique for shoppers. Are they seeing foot traffic pick up with the warmer weather?
Foot traffic is picking up. You know, in our internet age, every store, every retail outlet that sells goods has a website. And so they've all been able to really harness the power of their websites in terms of online shopping and ordering and curbside pickup. So that's been very effective. And from what we're understanding and what we're hearing is that many of the stores, even after we're through this, are going to continue that practice because it's just another convenience for their shoppers. So they're getting very good at it. And, you know, I think you're right. I think customers are becoming more comfortable with it as well. So I think that's going to become part of the new way of shopping, you know, in our stores.
I will say, though, I tend to buy more when I'm in a store. I buy those things I didn't know I needed or didn't know I wanted. So
Yes.
How are they doing employee-wise? I know it seems some places have been struggling to get employees back, but the federal pandemic additional funds are going to be running out at the end of the month. How are they doing with employees?
Certainly restaurants are all struggling for help. And most retailers that you walk into will also have a help wanted sign in their window. You have to remember that prior to this, in February, the job market was extremely tight in Michigan. There just weren't enough workers. And this has kind of exacerbated the situation. You hear about 20% unemployment, but all of those folks are on, you know, the federal unemployment stipend as well as the regular unemployment. So it's not as critical, I guess, to find a job, at least through the month of July. I think that, you know, when that $600 expires and is replaced by something less than that, if anything at all, I think you're going to see a lot more people re-entering the workforce.
Joe Bauman with us on the Oakland County Megacast on a family of TV and radio stations. Bridge, Michigan recently reported that a potential $100 million in relief funds from the state's CARES Act allotment will be coming to small businesses. They'll be able to get upwards of $20,000 per pop from these individual grants. How critical right now would that kind of money be to some of our small businesses, particularly in the Birmingham, Bloomfield area?
So here's the good news. You're referring to the Michigan Small Business Restart Program, which is being administered through the state of Michigan. It's going to be distributed to county economic development organizations. So in Oakland County, we're receiving just about $11 million of that $100 million. The application process begins on July 15th. The email address is michiganbusiness.org/restart. And so beginning the 15th, small businesses will be able to apply for a grant through that. In addition, Oakland County is getting ready to roll out a third phase of their small business grant program. And this one is being funded at the level of $32 million. This also is a grant program. It's not a loan program. And it's going to be targeting those businesses that have been the greatest impacted by the stay-home orders and some of the ongoing restrictions. So restaurants, spas, salons, gyms, movie houses, that's where they're going to be looking at. And these will be up to $10,000. So there's information on the oakgov.com website the application process has not begun yet. We keep hearing from our friends at Oakland County that it's any day now. But as you know, these programs are put together quickly and then without a lot of detail. So we just have to wait and see what that looks like. And then lastly, I want to mention, we've all been talking about the payroll protection program through the federal government, the PPP. There is still $100 billion left in that fund available to small businesses. So once again, if you're a small business owner and you haven't applied for a PPP loan yet, I really strongly, we encourage you to talk to your accountant and talk to your financial institution and see if a PPP loan makes sense and whether you can get it forgiven and have it converted into a grant. So there is more help on the way, but really none of these programs are going to do any good if we have to close our businesses and stay home again because the virus continues to spike and we're not wearing masks. So it all comes back to prevention.
Joe Bauman with us on the Oakland County Megacast. He is the president of the Birmingham Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce. So in your case, when these programs do move into motion, how will your chamber help these small businesses in your community to apply for these and hopefully get these grants that they so desperately need right now?
So we are monitoring both the county and state websites on a nearly hourly basis to make sure that as soon as these programs open, we can press that out, push it out via social media and our website and our CRM that we use to communicate to our members. But we want, it doesn't matter if you're a member of the chamber or not. We want all of our small businesses to be successful. We want them to benefit from these programs. So we're going to do everything we can to make sure they have the most updated and accurate information that's available. Because we know, they're fighting 24/7 just to try to stay in business. And if we can take that burden away from them and provide that service by making sure they're getting the information in an accurate and timely manner, that's how we feel we can be the most helpful.
How hard has it been for the businesses to actually get their hands on some of this money and get it turned around and into their bank accounts?
So with the Oakland County program, the chamber we sat on the grants allocation committees for phases 1 and 2. So I was very familiar with that in terms of the turnaround. Phase one went pretty quickly. Phase 2 took a little longer, but we believe all of the money has been dispersed out of that program. With the PPP, we've heard, it's supposed to be within 72 hours. For the most part, that money is available right away. The state of Michigan, I'm not sure. We're hoping that with that program, I believe what they originally announced was there was going to be a 2-week application process. So July 15th to roughly the first week of August. So we're guessing that the money certainly won't be distributed until after the application process is done. So probably about mid-August, the $100 million should be dispersed by the state.
Joe, anything else you'd like to touch on today before we let you go?
Well, thank you so much again for giving me the opportunity to be on. It's a great communication model for us that we can just get some more information out there. I would just end with what I started with. Please, please, please follow the mandatory mask wearing guidelines. No longer a guideline, it's an order. And please don't take your frustration out on the men and women who are putting themselves continually at risk to serve you, to make sure that you have everything that you want and need. So mask up, shop local, and we'll get through this together.
Joe, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you so much.
Joe Bauman, the president of the Birmingham Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce, with us on the Oakland County Megacast. We'll take a quick break and return with more. You are watching and listening to us all throughout the Oakland County area on our family of TV and radio stations.
Technology like smartphones are wonderful devices to reduce social isolation in older adults. You can call grandchildren, phone friends, participate in fitness classes, and play games. But you need to stay mindful of scams. Scams related to the COVID-19 virus are rising. These include attempts to obtain personal information from seniors, including pitching unreliable products, advice, tests, and cures. You need to stay vigilant and be cautious. If you feel that you have been taken advantage of, it's okay for you to reach out to somebody you know and seek out advice, or even contact your medical provider. Thank you.
Michigan, we still need to stay careful because we don't want to go backwards, back to where we started. So keep standing 6 feet apart, keep wearing a mask in public, and if you have symptoms, talk to a healthcare provider about getting tested. To move forward, let's all do our part. So stay careful. Michigan.gov/coronavirus.
Welcome back to the Oakland County Megacast on a family of TV and radio stations all throughout the local area. On Comcast Channel 15 and AT&T Channel 99 on Birmingham Area Municipal Access, and on Civic Center TV. We're also on 88.1 WBFH, The Biff, and on the Walled Lake Consolidated School District's Facebook page via Facebook Live, talking to you about all the latest coronavirus news and more in the Oakland County area, and a lot of programs being canceled over the last several months, municipal programs and recreational programs, as the coronavirus pandemic creates new challenges for keeping community engagement running during this time, especially in a really active season like we have in the summer each and every year in the state of Michigan. To talk about that and some programs that are still ongoing, we are joined now by Megan Kernat, the marketing manager for West Bloomfield Parks. Megan, welcome to the program.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, glad to have you with us. How are you? How's the team over at West Bloomfield Parks doing?
We're good. We kicked off summer camps today, so that's kind of great to. They're much smaller than usual, but it's great to see some kids running about, and it feels a little bit normal, so it's good.
It's interesting that you say that summer camps are going. A lot of those have been canceled. You say it's on a smaller scale. So how is that working, having kids in these summer camp programs? What's kind of the way that workflow works, and how are you maintaining safety guidelines for these kids?
Yeah, so we've reduced the size of our camps significantly, but we really feel it's an essential service to offer to the community. So they're much smaller, like I said, but they're also hosted all outdoors. So typically we do a mix of indoor and outdoor, but this year we are going to be outdoor as much as possible. All of our camp counselors are remaining with the same small group of kids, so there's not really a lot of intermingling between those pods of kids. And then we're also doing health screenings every single day.
Megan, I'm sure there are a lot of parents extremely excited to have their kids participate in the camps again, but as adults as well, I know you guys have an exciting thing that's going to be returning to the parks. Do you want to talk about that?
Absolutely, yeah. So we are able to host our Marching Music Series, which is our Concert in the Park series that we've been hosting since, I think we started in like the 70s. So it's one of our favorite annual traditions here in West Bloomfield. This year is absolutely going to look very different from previous years, but we're just happy that we're able to offer some live entertainment. So whether residents are participating in person at the park, or whether they're tuning in on our Facebook Live page or on Lakes FM, we hope that a lot of people will take advantage of it.
So tell us a little bit about the series. When is the first concert, and who is your first act?
Yeah, so we kick off the series this Wednesday, and it will go for 3 consecutive weeks. Each evening we have 2 bands, so a wide variety of different genres of music. This week our first band is a country band, and then our second band is Motown. So we're excited to have that kind of mix put together into one night. We have limited participation to 100 participants. When we initially were planning on offering the series, we were hoping to have at least 250, but since we haven't moved into phase 5 as a state, we are limiting attendance to 100. So we are asking people to pre-register by card and let us know how many people they're bringing with them. The first concert as well as the third concert are both sold out, but there is a little bit of space in the second week. So if you are interested in joining us, hop on today or give us a call and get registered.
So how is this actually going to work? How are you going to keep people separated, and talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So Marshbank Park is a really big park anyway. So with 100 people, we're going to have more than enough room for everyone. But in order to be extra careful, our park staff, our fabulous park staff, is going out to the park the morning of the concert, and they're going to be painting lines across the concert hill. And they are spaced 12 feet apart vertically. So we're just asking families to stay, right on the line there, and then make sure you keep enough space on either side of you. But that will just help to make sure that people visually know how much space we're hoping to have between the different groups. And then we'll also have 3 food trucks in the park that night. So we will be forming a line with cones and making sure those are spaced out appropriately. We will also have our sponsors in the park. And so we're just asking participants to make sure that they, maintain those social distances when they're interacting with our local business community as well.
I would imagine the musical acts are so excited to be able to perform live again, because that is another industry that has taken such a huge, huge hit.
Yeah, absolutely. We've received nothing but really positive feedback. I think people are just excited to get back and do what they love. A lot of the bands that we hire, this is something they just do for fun. And so I think they really miss that, and they're just excited to have the opportunity to get out and play.
If we can shift a little bit away from the music in the parks, the concerts in the park, and just talk about the parks in general, how have you and your team been handling all of this? And I know that once the parks reopen, you see the signs about COVID-19 in the parks, but what are you telling parents that are bringing their kids? Because they, kids, there's still a lot of playing and a lot of, germs and this, that, and the other. So it's really kind of up to the parents to be responsible.
Yeah, I mean, we do the best that we can to keep our parks clean and install signage to encourage people to keep distances and wash their hands and all of those things. But ultimately, it is up to, the individual families to keep an eye on that type of thing. Our parks have been just exploding in popularity since COVID started. So we're kind of figuring out how to, navigate this new normal as we're seeing so much traffic in all of our parks. But it's really a great thing. It's not something that we're complaining about internally. We're happy. We love seeing, so many people using the park, and it's really an appreciated amenity in the community now more than ever. So, we just try to remain positive about it. And we're just trying to make sure we're encouraging people when we do see them in the park. If we're noticing, some behaviors that maybe are troublesome, we try to just remain positive and try to encourage those good behaviors.
Megan Kernat with us, the marketing manager for West Bloomfield Parks, with us on the Oakland County Megacast. Even beyond the concerts and the summer camps you mentioned, there are still other programs that are ongoing, both virtual and non-virtual. What are some of those other notable programs that you typically see from West Bloomfield Parks over the summer that either have been modified for virtual or are still ongoing, but in just a more limited capacity?
Yeah, so we're really focusing on adding a lot of virtual programs so that we can make sure we're still offering things for those community members that aren't comfortable coming and gathering. And then we're also adding programs that are outdoor. So small outdoor recreation programs, we're adding them almost weekly. So we're in the process right now of putting together a midsummer guide because our initial summer guide that was mailed out in April, a lot of that, those programs had to be canceled. So we're putting together all of the things we've been working on over the past 6 weeks, and we plan on publishing that by the end of the month. So hopefully everyone can check out our website or social media, sign up for email blasts, because we're constantly adding new things. As far as virtual goes, we are doing a lot of social type programs for our senior community in particular. We have some virtual Tai Chi, some exercise programs as well. And then as far as in-person programming goes, we're really relying heavily on our nature staff because nature is something that we love and what we spend a lot of our time teaching about and enjoying here in West Bloomfield. So we're adding some open hours at our outdoor natural play area. We're doing hikes and just some different seasonal themes for families to take advantage of.
So I would imagine the parks has really become an outdoor classroom for kids to be able to explore again. It seems like we got away from that. So what are your top 3 programs that you think the kids should really get into it and enjoy?
Yeah, I mean, well, our Mommy and Me hikes have always been really popular. Those are free. We're definitely increasing our number of free programs as well, just because we want to see families. We want people to get out and recreate. So I would say that one. We've also been doing some outdoor yoga at Marshbank Park, which has been really fun. And I think it's a beautiful park and a great place to do outdoor fitness anyway. So that kind of lended itself really well. And then we're hoping to be able to offer our very popular Kids Commotion concert series this August. So if all goes well with the Marshbank Music Series, we're planning on following a similar format for Kids Commotion. So initially those were planned back in May and June. And so we hope to have a few of those in August. So stay tuned, hopefully, for that.
How much, you said the parks have exploded. How much do you think your activity has increased during this pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have a great way to track foot traffic or anything like that. But I just know that every time I've drove into one of our parks, especially all of the walking paths and the West Bloomfield Trail, the nature preserve, any of those trail type amenities within our parks are especially very busy. And now that we've reopened some of our park amenities, such as pickleball, that's always very, very busy, our tennis courts. So I don't have like a solid number, but just anytime you visit throughout the day, it doesn't even matter if it's morning or in the evening, they're just all really busy.
Yeah, I think people don't realize how many programs you do actually provide beyond just when you think parks, you're thinking, the playground or the trail, but you have so much going on and so much to offer. What's the best way for people to figure out everything that's going on?
Yeah, I mean, I think right now, just because everything changes weekly, it seems like in this crazy COVID new normal that we're kind of operating in, I just keep recommending to people to sign up for our weekly email blast because that's going to have the most up-to-date information. And anytime we add something, it's going to go in there. So you can just sign up right from the homepage of our website. So I would encourage people to start there.
So when we're talking about the one thing I love is the trail, how far does the trail actually go? Does it connect to Clinton River and then all the way up? And I will say, I live on the trail, and I'm like you. I see it's so much busier now. So what are good times for people to go?
Yeah, so the West Bloomfield Trail is about 7 miles long, and it does connect to the brand new beautiful Airline Trail to our west, and also the Clinton River Trail to our east. So it's great for walkers, runners, but also bikers too that want to go a little bit farther than 7 miles. So we have our biggest trail entry point is at Arrowhead Road, and that's where the biggest parking lot is. So we try to kind of direct people to start there. There's also a great access point there for the West Bloomfield Woods Nature Preserve, which is a beautiful 165-acre nature preserve. So you're in West Bloomfield, but it doesn't really feel like you are because you're in the middle of the woods, and it's just absolutely beautiful. Lots of wildlife. So we usually encourage people that are maybe unfamiliar with the trail to start there because you can check out both. And then we also just want to remind users to keep in mind that it is only an 8-foot wide trail. And so when you see people that are trying to pass, just make sure you're being respectful of other trail users, especially with all of the increased foot traffic that we're seeing. So just stay to the right if someone's trying to pass you. Just be courteous to other park users. A little bit of kindness goes a long way, especially right now.
Real quick, I do want to ask you one question with the concert series. Do people need to wear a mask when they attend that now with the new order?
So we're encouraging people to bring a mask. So if you're using the restrooms, you would need a mask. If you're interacting with us or with the food truck vendors or any of the band members. So please do bring a mask. When you're sitting on the hill, outside with your family, you don't have to wear it the entire time or anything, but we do ask that you bring one with you.
Megan Kernat with us. She's the marketing manager at West Bloomfield Parks. Just another couple minutes with you, Megan, before we got to let you go. Anything else you'd like to touch on today? Any other important information people should know from West Bloomfield Parks today?
Well, we are up for a millage renewal this August, so we have all of that information posted on our website. So I would encourage residents to check that out before they head to the polls in August. And then other than that, just stay tuned because we are working really hard to continue to add programs for you guys. It's been definitely a unique year and a bit of a challenge, but we're up for it. And it seems like people really are trying to get out and recreate. So every time we add something, it seems to be filling really fast, and people are just so grateful to have these resources available to them.
Well, Megan, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate it. Megan Kernat, the marketing manager for West Bloomfield Parks, with us on the Oakland County Megacast on our family of TV and radio stations. We'll take a quick break, come back, and review today's top headlines. You are watching and listening to the Oakland County Megacast on our family of TV and radio stations. Ronnie and I will return after this short break.
Michigan, we're calling on you to save lives. Don't ignore it. Don't let it go to voicemail. It's urgent. In fact, it's critical. Because if you've been in close contact with someone who tests positive for COVID-19, you may have been exposed to the virus. And you could get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department. So please answer the call to learn how to protect yourself, your family, and friends. We're calling on you to stop the spread of COVID-19, to make it safe to reopen businesses and help Michigan move forward. So if you get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department, you may have been exposed to someone with COVID-19. To protect us all, answer the call. Learn more at michigan.gov/containcovid. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jonae Khaldun. I'm the Chief Medical Executive for the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. The people who are at highest risk of getting severely ill from COVID-19 are the elderly and those with chronic medical conditions. That includes people with heart disease, diabetes, COPD, or those who have compromised immune systems. People who are in those categories should right now be staying at home as much as possible and not going out if it is not essential. If you fit into one of those categories, those are the things you should do. And if you have a family member who fits into one of those categories, you should be checking in on them and making sure they are following those guidelines. There's something everyone can do to protect the community from COVID-19.
Welcome back to the Oakland County Megacast on our family of TV and radio stations across the local area. We're on Birmingham Area Municipal Access and Civic Center TV on Comcast Channel 15 and AT&T Channel 99. In addition, we're on the radio on 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake, West Bloomfield, Keego Harbor, Sylvan Lake, and 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills, a service of the Bloomfield Hills School District. With service out of Bloomfield Hills High School under the leadership of station manager Ron Whittables. And today, a lot of different things making news. A lot of news came late on Friday afternoon last weekend, over the weekend, and a lot of new programs in play right now. And Ronnie's going to give you some of our latest headlines from online at civiccentertv.com/coronavirus.
You know, I think we knew this was going to be coming. New face mask requirements go into effect today. So refusing to wear a mask covering in Michigan can now cost you a $500 fine. It's Executive Order 2020-147. It mandates individuals are required to wear a face covering whenever they are in an indoor public space, or, this is going to be the big difference here, in a crowded outdoor space when you cannot use proper social distancing. I think this is coming out of all those pictures we saw of people on the beaches, partying, and at the bars and restaurants. So businesses are expected to deny service to individual not obeying, and anyone found to be in violation of the order could face a misdemeanor charge with a $500 criminal penalty. In a statement, Governor Whitmer said masks can reduce the chance of spreading COVID-19 by about 70%. And by wearing masks, we can save lives and protect our family, friends, and neighbors. Businesses also that do not enforce this, they could also risk losing their license. And I think this is one of the things too we're seeing. There was the gym owner in Roseville. he was cited and all the people in his gym were cited as well. So this is going to be a big thing going forward. Make sure when you leave you have a mask or some type of face covering. So what do you think about that, Tyler?
I think it creates a situation where you are, as a business, having to also prove that you were trying to enforce the law, too, because if you come in and if someone comes in and says, well, someone wasn't wearing a mask in here, they were refusing to wear a mask, and it kind of looks like maybe the business wasn't enforcing it in that case because they wanted to de-escalate, but they also don't have, like Joe Bauman had said earlier, a 20-year-old hostess at a restaurant doesn't have de-escalation training that maybe a Birmingham police officer would have, or that someone else in public safety in the community would have. So it creates a situation where you're now trying to prove as a business also that you were trying to comply with this, and at some point there's going to be a break where you can't really enforce it any further than you already have without a serious situation unfolding.
Right, but this serves as a good warning for us as well. Governor Whitmer, she pretty much hinted that this could be a possibility. No one took it seriously. Too many people were out wearing masks, spreading COVID. I think they've now traced some cases back to Torch Lake and the party that happened there over the 4th of July weekend. So this is going to continue to be an issue. Another thing that's going on, and we've talked about it here on the show, is pandemic is creating challenges for the upcoming election. So area clerks are going to have a hard time with this. In 2018, voters approved the same-day voter registration and no reason absentee voting. With COVID-19 still a concern, requests for absentee ballots have surged. Secretary of State's office reported over 1.5 million requests ahead of the August 4th primary. That's more than 3.5 times the number than at the same time in 2016. Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson said, "We're doing everything we can to really quickly adjust to a lot of new things for our clerks and for the voters. So keep in mind the August 4th primary, very important election coming up. So if you do not have an absentee ballot, you could expect some really long lines at the polls because, number one, there's a shortage of volunteers at the polls. You don't know if all the polls are going to be open due to the pandemic. A lot more people with the absentee ballots, which is also going to result in a delay in getting some of the results."
There's going to be a lot of changes with these upcoming elections, and especially with the influx of expected absentee voters in this upcoming election and same-day registrations. If you're a poll voter, even despite less people maybe voting at the physical polls, to try to get there a little bit earlier, and for those that are on site to, of course, be as patient as possible as these election workers are trying to move everybody through and hold a safe and secure election.
Well, you have to remember the lines are going to be very long at the polls just because people are going to have to maintain that 6-foot distancing. Right. So bring your patience for that as well. We're all adapting and we're all in this together. And also the other big thing is the eviction moratorium is going to be lifted this week. A lot of people have benefited from this moratorium. Things are about to change. Advocates for renters expect a flood of the eviction filings as the state's eviction moratorium lifts later this week. It's estimated there's a backlog of 75,000 filings. The eviction ban was first imposed on March 20th. Even as funding to help renters flows to the tenants as well as the landlords, renters advocates worry the support won't be enough to keep people in their homes as the pandemic continues to cause job losses. So this is going to be interesting going forward. I do know, Tyler, one of the things that they're saying is the courts are prepared for this influx of the eviction filings, and they're going to have to try to prioritize them in a different way. But so they are still trying to come up with some different programs and state money to try to keep people in their homes. But as we know, sometimes that takes time, and there's a process to all of this. So we're going to have to continue to look and see how that plays out. That moratorium is lifted, I believe, Thursday of this week.
And it's time that a lot of people that may be evicted from their homes or removed from their homes do not have. So that's going to continue to be a very important story here. Other headlines making news at civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. At least 43 cases of COVID-19 have been linked to a house party in Washtenaw County. According to published articles, it appears that party happened over the 4th of July weekend. Due to the time it takes for COVID-19 to incubate and for individuals to show symptoms, the recent increase in case numbers throughout the state has been largely due to people engaging in social activities and not adhering to social distancing or face mask wearing guidelines. Contact tracing methods are also underway to attempt to track individuals involved with this and other get-togethers. So again, Ronnie, another case where people are irresponsibly gathering together, not maintaining those safety guidelines. And we're seeing that's what happens. You have a spread of coronavirus cases, of COVID-19 cases in those situations.
We also had really nice weather throughout the holiday weekend, so it allowed for people to gather and to be in parties. I think a lot of people put their guards down when they're outdoors because they're assuming, and we're hearing that, being outdoors helps contain the spread. So it's not, when you're in an enclosed space, then the spread of COVID is, you're at higher risk. So I think we all put our guards down a little bit. You went to the beach, you were out on the boat, you were at parties, and even if it was family parties, but it's still family and friends and large gatherings. And what's sad in those cases is now that's going to spread through all of your loved ones and the people that you know.
Michigan records 390 new COVID-19 cases on Sunday. Reports from Bridge, Michigan are showing an increase of 390 new cases just yesterday. The previous few days saw increases over 600 plus, so this is definitely a little more optimistic news with significantly less cases. That those 600 plus individuals over those few days, that consistent 600 plus individuals marked a continuing trend of new cases throughout the state. Oakland County came in third place for new cases with 56 individuals testing positive for COVID-19. Michigan reported only one death on Sunday due to coronavirus complications, so numbers looking a little bit better on Sunday than they have in recent times, Ronnie.
We'll take it. We need any good news we can get out of this. And while we're seeing a surge of cases in the southern states, we are hopefully on the back end of this, and we're being able to contain it a little bit more. Even though there is still a surge from the holiday weekend, it's still so much better than where we were in March and in April.
It is far better than where we were before, and hopefully any scares of a second wave maybe taking a step back. Hopefully, as we continue to have fewer cases, new cases each day, fewer deaths and hospitalizations as well. So keep up the good work, wear your mask, keep your social distance, and follow these safety guidelines. We're going to take a quick break and return with more. You're watching and listening to the Oakland County Megacast.
Hi, my name is Kurt Lawson, and I'm the Public Information Officer for West Bloomfield Township. We wanted to reach out to you, our older adults, to provide information that you may find useful during this difficult time. We want to ensure you that West Bloomfield Town Hall, our Waters and Utility Department, West Bloomfield Parks, and our police and fire departments continue to work hard on your behalf. Information and resources can be found on the Township website, the police Facebook and Twitter, or call West Bloomfield Parks COVID-19 Help Hotline. Please remember to keep your social distance of at least 6 feet, wear facial coverings when you leave your home, and wash your hands for at least 20 seconds with soap. These precautions will help keep you safe during these difficult times.
Michigan, we're calling on you to save lives. Don't ignore it. Don't let it go to voicemail. It's urgent. In fact, it's critical. Because if you've been in close contact with someone who tests positive for COVID-19, you may have been exposed to the virus. And you could get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department. So please answer the call to learn how to protect yourself, your family, and friends. We're calling on you to stop the spread of COVID-19, to make it safe to reopen businesses and help Michigan move forward. So if you get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department, you may have been exposed to someone with COVID-19. To protect us all, answer the call. Learn more at michigan.gov/contain COVID. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Hello, I'm Dr. Betty Chu, Chief Quality Officer at Henry Ford Health System, and I'm with Wright Lassiter, Henry Ford Health System's CEO, to talk about coronavirus.
In uncertain times, it's natural to have questions. So I'm going to ask Dr. Chu to answer some of the common ones. First, why can't I visit my grandma to see if she's okay?
Because the elderly are at a higher risk for complications with this disease, and you could inadvertently infect her.
If I'm healthy, why can't I go out with my friends?
The larger the crowd you're exposed to, the higher the chance you could get infected and infect others.
If I have symptoms, why do I have to seek care?
While the disease isn't dangerous for most people, for others it can be. We need to understand how serious your case is, because the right choices save lives. For more information, visit henryford.com or call 313-874-1055.
Welcome back to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Tyler Kieft alongside Ronnie Dahl and our family of TV and radio stations all throughout the local area on Comcast Channel 15 and AT&T Channel 99, on Civic Center TV and Birmingham Area Municipal Access. In addition, we're also on 89.3 Lakes FM and 88.1 The Biff, WBFH out of the Bloomfield Hills School District. In addition, today we're on the Waldway Consolidated School District's Facebook page via Facebook Live, and thank them for joining us today for the entirety of the program. Joining us now on the phone, your taxes are due very soon. They're usually due on April 15th. The deadline was extended this year, and there are some changes in play. And to help us through some of those complications, we are joined now via telephone by Luis Garcia, the spokesperson, one of the regional spokespersons for the Internal Revenue Service. Luis, thank you for being with us today.
My pleasure.
So how are you? How's your team at the IRS been doing this season?
Well, very, very busy. It hasn't just been the tax season and the extension, but it's also been handling a large portion of the economic impact payments that people were sent, and it's just a lot of moving parts, and of course trying to stay safe and ensuring that our not just the public and the taxpayers are safe, but that our staff is safe as well.
Usually April 15th is tax day. The deadline, of course, was extended for this year, but it is coming up. When are taxes due, and what does that entail for people? Does that mean they have to be into the IRS, or do they have to be filed and sent out to the IRS by that date?
Well, they have to be into the IRS, or I should say, if you are using paper and filing a paper return, it should be postmarked by July 15th. However, if you are like most people and you file electronically, we need that in before midnight on Wednesday, July 15th, so that you're not assessed any penalties or fees or anything like that for late filing if indeed you owe.
Luis Garcia with us, the spokesperson for the Internal Revenue Service. What are some of the biggest challenges in the midst of a pandemic for the IRS in collecting taxes and in distributing other funds to the public?
Well, the biggest challenge has been our processing of paper returns. We've always encouraged people to file electronically, and the reason for that is it's very easy, it's secure. Most people get a refund. In Michigan, for example, 74% of people get a refund, and in order to expedite that, you should file electronically, whether it's through your tax professional, if you have a CPA, or you go to a firm that does taxes, or if you're buying software, or we encourage everybody who's eligible for it. If you make less than $69,000 a year, you qualify for free file, and you can do your taxes. Big name tax software companies, you can use their tax software for free and file electronically as well. But all these different options, we encourage the online filing. But our biggest challenge has been the people who are filing by paper. We haven't had the facilities that process those returns, that physically open up the envelopes and scan them in, or key punch this information in. Those facilities have been opening depending on what the state, the laws in the states that they're functioning in. So we have a lot of people who are expecting a refund or who filed early this year, and haven't heard anything from us because, well, we haven't been able to process their return because we haven't been open, depending on where they sent, which facility they sent their tax return to. So we're encouraging everybody that if you can, please file electronically, and it's a matter of, talk to your tax professional. You can scan the stuff in, and it happens every year, regardless of how far this is the longest we've extended the tax deadline, but regardless, a lot of people wait till the last moment. That's fine as long as you get it in on time. But remember that by waiting to the last moment, you can also find yourself in a crunch for information that you may not have. There may be a particular piece of information that, maybe you left it at the office, or maybe you left it at another location. And well, if the clock is ticking and you don't have that information to complete your return, it may cause you some problems. So we really encourage people to give themselves plenty of time. It doesn't have to be super early, but most people get a refund. Why wait to get a refund? File as quickly as you can. And if you're panicked this year, it's okay. Just remember that next year, so you're not waiting until the last moment next year. But if you file electronically, you're going to avoid a lot of headaches, like the common errors that we find. People transpose numbers. They put the incorrect filing status. They may be single. They may be married filing jointly. Usually the tax software will walk you through all of that. The second biggest problem we have is simple math errors that people do. And we want to make sure that that's avoided, because in most cases it's not a lot, but it can throw off the entire return, and we'll have to send it back to you. You have to re-sign it. And when you're doing a paper return, another big issue is people will go through all this work, fill it out, do all the math, look through all the regulations and all the form instructions, and then they put it in the envelope, mail it to us, and they forgot to sign it. So if you're doing a paper return, after all that hard work, don't forget to sign that return. And we want to make sure that if any possibility you have to file electronically, do so, because it just makes everything so much easier.
So this is actually the first time I've heard about the delays for people with the paper returns. How much of a delay are you looking at? And if they were planning to do a paper return this year and you still have 2 days, should they go ahead and just switch and do it electronically then?
They should do it electronically just because of the ease of it. But especially if they have the opportunity, and especially if they're looking at a refund, we want to make sure they get that refund as quickly as possible. Under normal circumstances, if you file a paper return, it's going to take about 6 to 8 weeks for us to process that return and then send you a paper check, if you ask for a paper check. If you use tax filing software, whether you're a tax professional or you yourself, you file electronically and ask for a direct deposit, you're looking at less than 3 weeks for you to get that refund. And, I'm just speaking anecdotally. The people that I know, my neighbors, my friends, they get it within less than 2 weeks. So if you're expecting a refund, the best thing to do is to make sure that you're looking at your electronic tax filing options, whether it's purchasing the software, go to the warehouse club or the software store, but better yet, just buy it online. And if you make less than $69,000 a year, check out Free File. But if you look at a Free File, and again, this is a free tax software that in partnership with the IRS and 9 different tax preparation software companies, and some of those are really big names that are advertising all the time for sale. You can get the same exact software for free, but here's the trick. You've got to first go to irs.gov, click on Free File, and then go through that process. There's a lot of people who say, hey, I've tried Free File and I always get charged, or I always, when I do Free File, in the end, there's some kind of fee. Well, when we backtrack and walk them through everything, they never started out with irs.gov. If you want the free tax filing software, always start with irs.gov first, and then choose the software company you want to use after that from within the system.
Luis, this year has brought a lot of changes for a lot of people, especially with unemployment benefits and the stimulus checks. How does that, how does that impact the unemployed or their taxes this year? Do you have to pay taxes on that stimulus check?
Not on the stimulus check, but we want to make sure everybody knows, because we have this happen quite often, especially during an economic downturn. A lot of people who normally don't take advantage of unemployment take it out, and they think, well, this is way less than my regular paycheck. I'm going to need every penny of it, and I'm not going to have any taxes taken out. I'm going to have the least amount in taxes taken out. The problem is, then at the end of the year, or when you do your taxes, you owe a huge chunk of money because you haven't withheld the right amount. So we have a program on irs.gov called Paycheck Checkup, and you put your information in there. None of your personal identifying information, not like your Social Security or your name or anything, or your address, but your filing status, how much you make, how many people are your dependents, and so on, and it will give you exactly what would be the ideal for you to withhold, or how much to put on that W-4. When you are taking out filling out your form, or you can go back and redo it if you're expecting to be unemployed for a lengthy period of time. Make sure you go back and adjust the withholding. Yes, you're going to be getting less money per paycheck or per Social Security check, unemployment check. However, at the end of the year, you're not going to owe anything. And in most cases, you're going to get a refund if you over withheld. But the double whammy is you're unemployed, then you find out you're not getting as much as you were making, and then the triple whammy, the following year, you find out you owe a big chunk of money to the IRS because you didn't withhold enough money. So if you are in that unfortunate situation, just make sure you don't make it any worse by under withholding.
Every year, trying to do taxes is such a nightmare and a headache for a lot of us. There are so many rules and regulations and changes every year. What's the biggest advice you give to individuals when it comes to filing their taxes?
Two things. If you hate doing your taxes, first thing, you're normal. Everybody does. And secondly, make sure you keep everything in the same place. All those 1099s and all the stuff that comes in the mail. Make sure you're keeping it all in the same place, and use the tax filing software. For the vast majority of people, this will walk you through everything. It asks you all the right questions. It asks you everything that you need to get the maximum refund or pay the least amount if you are somebody who owes, and gives you all the credits, all the deductions, everything, because it's constantly asking you, did you do this? Did you sell this? Did you buy this? And it does all the hard work for you. And if you're more comfortable face-to-face, make sure that you're dealing with a tax professional. The vast majority of tax professionals are really, really good. They know their stuff, and they're going to give you the maximum in terms of whether it's a refund or the minimum amount that you will ever have to pay. They're going to find all that. But make sure that you do your homework. If you're going to choose a tax professional, first off, check with the IRS. Go to irs.gov and click on the Return Prepare database. And if somebody says that they're doing taxes and they're charging you for them, they have to have a Prepare Tax Identification Number, or a PTIN. If they don't, they are doing something illegal. And in many cases, they're underground, and they may be stealing your personal information. They may be the reason that they're so popular is they're putting a lot of stuff on your tax return that you're unaware of. You get a huge check. You're super happy. You go tell all your friends, hey, use this guy. I got double what I did last year. Except 6 months later, you get a letter from us saying, hey, those 6 kids that you had on your return, they don't exist, or they're on somebody else's return. And all of a sudden, you're in trouble with the IRS, and this person has disappeared. So make sure that you do your homework before you give somebody really the most sensitive information: your Social Security number, your children, your spouse's Social Security number, how much you make, your bank account numbers. I know people, and might say something about me, but I know people who put more time and more homework into what they're going to watch over the weekend than who they give their really super sensitive personal information to. So do your homework before you hand anybody this really valuable information, and you'll find out that you're going to have a tax professional who's really going to take care of you, and at the same time isn't going to rip you off by stealing your identity or by putting a bunch of fake information on your return without your knowledge.
Well, Luis, thank you very much for being with us today. We appreciate having you on.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Luis Garcia, the regional spokesperson for the Internal Revenue Service, otherwise known as the IRS, with us on the Oakland County Megacast. And Ronnie, a lot of really interesting information about the changes in filing your taxes for this year.
Great information. This is the first time I'm actually hearing about the delay on the IRS side because of the paper returns. First time I'm hearing about it. So good information to know, because that deadline is coming up, and I do believe that we're one of the last ones too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But we don't get a refund, so that's kind of why we let it sit out there.
Indeed. Thank you, Ronnie. And that we'll take a quick break, and we'll come back. We'll talk about testing with a local expert about COVID-19 testing. That coming up and more on the Oakland County Megacast on a family of TV and radio stations all throughout the local area.
Michigan, we still need to stay careful because we don't want to go backwards, back to where we started. So keep standing 6 feet apart. Keep wearing a mask in public. And if you have symptoms, talk to a healthcare provider about getting tested. To move forward, let's all do our part. So stay careful. Michigan.gov/coronavirus.
Hello, I'm Dr. Faust, Medical Director for the Oakland County Health Division. Coronavirus disease 2019, or COVID-19, is a new disease caused by a new respiratory virus named SARS-CoV-2. COVID-19 was first identified in December 2019. There is currently no vaccine to prevent coronavirus disease 2019. The best way to prevent illness is to avoid being exposed to this virus. Wash your hands often with soap and water for at least 20 seconds, especially after going to the bathroom, before eating, and after blowing your nose, coughing, or sneezing. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects and surfaces using a regular household cleaning spray or wipe. Avoid close contact with people who are sick, and avoid touching your eyes, your nose, your mouth. Cover your cough or sneeze with a tissue, then throw the tissue in the trash. Finally, stay home when you're sick. For more information about coronavirus disease 2019, go to oakgov.com/health or call 1-800-848-5533.
Welcome back to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Tyler Kieft alongside Ronnie Dahl and our family of TV and radio stations all throughout the local area. Thanking you for joining in with us again as we kick off a new week of editions of Oakland County Megacast all throughout the Oakland County area on channels like Birmingham Area Municipal Access and Civic Center TV on Comcast 15 and AT&T 99. As well as on the radio on 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 The Biff, and online on Facebook Live via the Walled Lake Consolidated School District's Facebook page. They are our Facebook partner today, and we thank them very much for joining us on the program. So testing initially in this pandemic was really sparse and tough to come by. You had to have direct approval from your doctor and have them forward you to a testing site. Now it's much more open. And to talk to us about that from Elizabeth Lake Urgent Care, we're joined now by Tammy Miller once again on the Oakland County Megacast. Tammy, thank you for being with us today.
Hi, thank you. Good afternoon. Good to be here.
How are you? How's your team doing at Elizabeth Lake Urgent Care?
We're doing good. Busy. It's been extremely busy last couple days. I think we've seen 80 yesterday.
Wow, that's significant. So there's been a lot more testing available now than before. There's some new methods that are being used that are a little less invasive. Take us through what's now being done to test people for COVID-19 that wasn't being done before, and have you seen more people coming through your office lately to get tested for COVID-19?
Yes, as you know, that since May 17th through July 5th, there has been almost a 3% spike with the COVID. I think that's just because people are out moving around. A lot of people are not wearing their mask like they should. But we do have some new testing. We were able to obtain a new machine, and we actually do the nasal swab. It takes 15 minutes and they get results within 15 minutes, negative or positive, right there on the spot. We're still doing the antibody test for those folks that want to see if they built up antibodies towards COVID. And we're still sending out also the nasal swab.
How accurate are these testing methods?
The Sophia is almost 100%. The nasal swab also 100%. That goes to an accredited lab approved, and it goes through toxicology, so 100%.
How worried are you about the testing supplies as this pandemic wears on?
You know, I've been quite lucky, as I stated in the last Zoom that we had. I've been extremely lucky not running out of supplies. I think we only had one downtime day that we ran out of the antibodies, but we still were swabbing people and sending it out to the lab. So 8 to 8, 7 days a week, we're going strong.
So do you have to have a doctor's prescription to get one of these tests?
You do not. For those folks that do have a prescription, we can run the test for them. We can run the antibodies, send the swab out. And, they have their prescription, so they don't have to see one of our providers. However, if they do come through the drive-through and they don't have a prescription, we do have them see our provider, just to make sure our nurse practitioners, PAs, educate them on any questions that they may have.
So you have been a part of this since the beginning. What advice do you give to someone who hasn't been infected yet? Should they get tested? When should they get tested? What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I think everybody knows that this virus is changing. And, even before, people are walking around with no symptoms whatsoever. They could be carriers of the virus. So just, to especially the elderly, the people that are immunocompromised, they definitely need to be tested just to make sure that they're not, giving the virus to other people.
How often should a person get tested then?
Well, I think if they've been exposed, they should be waiting, anywhere from 2 to 14 days to come in to be tested. However, if they just want to ease their own mind, they can give us a call, come through the drive-through, we'll test them, and definitely, rest their mind at that.
This has to be challenging for you and your staff members. How are you able to make sure you all stay safe as well?
We're just using the universal precautions. Elizabeth Lake was one of the first sites that started the testing, and some of me and some of my staff, we still test each other, especially if we get colds or we're not feeling well. We'll do the antibody test or maybe send out a swab maybe once a month just to make sure that, we're not active. But it's the hand washing, the mask, making sure that patients are wearing the mask when they come in. We are sanitizing all day long. I spray off our clipboards, I spray our gloves, I spray our pens. Just making sure that we're double checking to make sure we're doing everything on our end to make sure everything's, disinfected and sanitized.
So for someone who hasn't had the test yet, we see the video on TV where they're, putting the swab way up your nostril and it looks so painful. They may be hesitant to get a test. Is that the type of test that you're doing now, or are there different ones? And, is it painful at all?
I wouldn't really say it's painful. It's definitely uncomfortable. But we've got the people coming through the drive-through, whether it's kids, adults, elderly, we're gentle with them. We explain, what we're going to do. We tell them to relax, count to 10, sometimes make them stick their tongue out. And, we're just very gentle with them. I would just say it's mostly uncomfortable. Now, as far as other testing goes too, we can also do the blood draws. The blood draws are 100%. So we've got so many options for the community and well patients, sick patients, and anything that they want from us. If they come through the drive-through and say, I just want the antibody test, I try to explain to them that is not 100%. It doesn't mean that they're going to be positive for antibodies. I do try to educate them somewhat. As far as getting either the Sophia machine run through the nasal swab or sending the swab out or a blood draw. So at that point, we kind of rely on what, the patient's needs to and how comfortable they are. And we had children coming through our drive-through, a lot of kids. And even the kids have been fantastic. The majority of them don't cry. We give them popsicles, suckers, do it quickly and get their testing done and, make them feel at ease as much as we can.
So do they wait for the results or do you contact them later?
No, if we are doing the antibody test, it takes 10 minutes. We have them set there. We pass out other, forms of paperwork to other people that's waiting. And they have to see our provider. If they don't have a prescription, we give them the results. We give them their antibody test in writing, or the Sophia machine that we are running. We give them those results, and they drive around the other side and see the doctor.
So tell us again where you are located, and do people need an appointment?
We are at 2446 Elizabeth Lake Road. That's Waterford. We are between Voorhees Road and Telegraph. You can't miss us. We are right on Elizabeth Lake Road.
And do people need an appointment before they come?
They don't. When I pulled up this morning, we open at 8 o'clock. I already had 4 people in line at 7:15 this morning.
Wow. So a lot of people being tested. Hopefully this is going to come to an end soon, right?
I hope so. I do. I hope so. It's I've been so lucky to be a part of this, be able to help the patients, help the staff, help the community. We've got restaurants that are coming to see us, so it's been challenging because it's a long day. But I'm just blessed that I've been able to be a part of it for people.
Tammy Miller from Elizabeth Lake Urgent Care. Before we let you go today, anything else you'd like to say before we wrap up today?
Come and see us. Call us. Our telephone number is 248-309-3344. My name's Tammy. They can ask for me. There's sometimes that I even go out and test people right in the parking lot. So we're here to help. Whatever their needs are, give me a call. I will do what I can do, to make sure they get tested and get some peace of mind or some help, some healthcare help.
Well, Tammy, thank you very much for being with us today.
You.
Tammy Miller from Elizabeth Lake Urgent Care with us on the Oakland County Megacast. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll talk about local art museums and other programs happening at Cranbrook in the local area. That coming up on the last interview of our day today on the Oakland County Megacast alongside Ronnie Dahl. I'm Tyler Keefe. The Megacast returns after this.
Michigan, we still need to stay careful because we don't want to go backwards. Back to where we started. So keep standing 6 feet apart. Keep wearing a mask in public. And if you have symptoms, talk to a healthcare provider about getting tested. To move forward, let's all do our part. So stay careful. Michigan.gov/coronavirus.
Hi, my name is Kurt Lawson, and I'm the Public Information Officer for West Bloomfield Township. We wanted to reach out to you, our older adults, to provide information that you may find useful during this difficult time. We want to ensure you that West Bloomfield Town Hall, our Waters and Utility Department, West Bloomfield Parks, and our police and fire departments continue to work hard on your behalf. Information and resources can be found on the Township website, the police Facebook and Twitter, or call West Bloomfield Parks COVID-19 Help Hotline. Please remember to keep your social distance of at least 6 feet, wear facial coverings when you leave your home, and wash your hands for at least 20 seconds with soap. These precautions will help keep you safe during these difficult times.
Hi, I'm Dr. Faust, the Medical Director for the Oakland County Health Division. The most important thing you can do to prevent the spread of illness is to wash your hands thoroughly and often. Follow these 6 easy steps every time you wash your hands. Step 1, turn on the sink and wet your hands with warm water. Step 2, apply soap to your hands and lather between your fingers, under your nails, and the front and back of your hands and wrists. Step 3, wash your hands by scrubbing them together for at least 20 seconds. Step 4, rinse your hands with warm, clean water. And step 5, dry your hands with a clean cloth towel, a paper towel, or hot air blow dryer. If you're using a cloth towel, make sure to change it often. For handheld faucets, turn off the water using a paper towel instead of your bare hand. Step 6, if you're using a paper towel, throw it away. Practice healthy habits like washing your hands after coughing or sneezing into them to keep you and others healthy. Go to oakgov.com/health or call Nurse on Call at 1-800-848-5533 to learn more.
Welcome back to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe alongside Ronnie Dahl in the studios of 89.3 Lakes FM and Civic Center TV. In addition, we're on Birmingham Area Municipal Access at 88.1 WBFH, the BIF, and today our Facebook partner is the Walled Lake Consolidated School District. We thank them and their team over at Walled Lake Schools for joining us today on this edition of the Oakland County Megacast. Our last interview today, we've talked to her before from Cranbrook's Art Institute and from Cranbrook's Art Museum and their Academy of Art. We're talking with their Director of Communications, Julie Fracker, with us on the Oakland County Megacast. Julie, thank you for being with us again today.
Sure, my pleasure. Nice to hear from you.
Yeah, how are you? How's the team at Cranbrook been doing?
Good. We are slowly gearing up to reopen. So we have been doing a lot of work behind the scenes, getting things ready for guests and staff. So we're getting close. We're looking forward to actually having some people back in our spaces.
I know we talked before when you were last on about what the operations at the museums may look like in the future if they were to reopen. Now that you're going through these plans, what is that going to look like when the art museum does reopen? How will things be shuffled around? How will things be different in order to maintain social distance and other safety guidelines as people are interacting with this art?
Yes, exactly. So, and I can really, just to talk to all of Cranbrook as well, the best thing for everyone to do before they plan a visit to any of the Cranbrook institutions, whether that's the gardens, the art museum, the Institute of Science, is to really visit the website before they come to campus. So in the case of the art museum, we are going to be doing timed tickets. So If you're an art member, those are still free. That's a benefit of art membership, but we are still asking that you register in advance. If you're purchasing a ticket for the day, we are also asking that you register in advance. You'll be given a 1 hour time slot. You can arrive anytime during that 1 hour time slot. And that will just be to sort of limit size in the gallery. What we don't want is for people to come to campus and have to wait out in a long line or be disappointed that they can't get in. So this is our way of sort of managing that, controlling the crowds. At all of the indoor spaces on campus, you will be asked to wear a mask, everyone over the age of 3. If you're under the age of 3, we do ask that you stay in like a stroller or carrier during your visit. The staff will all be masked. There are acrylic panels that are put up to keep our staff safe and to keep the customers safe. We're limiting our transactions, so we won't be accepting cash at this time. You'll be using credit cards, but hopefully, if you purchase those tickets in advance, then there really will be a contact-free admission when you do come to the museum. And then once you're in there, there's hand sanitizing stations throughout. We will be cleaning all of the spaces. At the museum, we've really built this exhibition to eliminate a lot of sort of pinch points. The way that we laid out the exhibition allows people to move through it freely, to really see the art, experience it, and they won't have these areas where they're all crowding around a particular case of something, for example. So our exhibition staff was really thoughtful in the way that they did that. So we are opening on the 15th to members only, so this week. And so again, we still ask that you register in advance. We're open Wednesdays through Sundays, so we're closed on Monday and Tuesday. Register in advance, and then to the art members, we'll be open from the 15th through the 19th, and then we'll open to the general public on the 22nd of July. And for the Institute of Science, I do have an update. They originally were going to open on the 15th with us as well. They did have a staff member test positive for COVID-19, so they are actually now delaying their opening. They started a deep cleaning yesterday at the Institute, and they don't have an opening date yet. They're just going to wait until it's sort of deemed safe for them to reopen. I would imagine that will be in a few weeks. But other than that, the museum, the art museum, will still open this Wednesday. And then the Cranbrook Gardens, they're open daily from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And guests are free to walk through the gardens, and certainly to continue to walk on Cranbrook's campus.
So can you tell me, are you limiting how many people come to the museum a day, like 50 tickets, 100 tickets? How are you handling that?
Right. So right now we're gonna take that first week to sort of see how it goes. So we're only offering a certain number of tickets an hour. So it's between like 15 and 20 tickets an hour. And then depending on how that goes, we will be limiting gallery admission. If we're at a certain capacity, we will ask people to wait outside until that capacity moves through. We're going to use, like I said, the first week with art members to sort of just manage flow and see, okay, if we can, if it's working that way, if it needs to be less, if it needs to be more. But the plan is sort of 15 to 20 people an hour throughout the day. But that may change as we move through.
What experience will people have this time versus pre-pandemic?
Yeah, good question. Really, the exhibition is really on the main gallery spaces. So everything will really be very much the same in terms of what they will see, with the exception of, as I said, certain things like cases filled with objects. The walls have been constructed in such a way to allow for really a nice flow through the museum, so that way people can still see, they're still going to have the same access to the art that they've always had. They'll still be able to get up close and look at the work. They'll still be able to wander, freely through the museum. They will, as I said, have to wear a mask. That will be a change. And then there'll be signage throughout the museum that just asks people to maintain that 6 foot of physical distance from other guests. So we hope to have reminders there, but we are asking for the public's help in all of this too, to sort of enforce this. Wear the mask, keep 6 feet of physical distance for both, their own personal safety and our staff member safety. Restrooms will be open. There'll be certain protocols. There'll be signage that will indicate certain protocols for that, but they are still going to be open as before. But yeah, we're trying to keep the experience as normal as possible in very unusual times.
For people who haven't been there, it is an amazing museum that I think we forget to visit because it is in our own backyard. So many people are staying home. They are staying closer. So if I'm coming there for the very first time, what should I absolutely make sure I see?
So I think, the best bet really is to allow yourself time to walk the grounds. The grounds of Cranbrook are beautiful. And right now it's a great time to, get out of the house and take a walk. It's 319 acres. And you can certainly do that. And in addition to coming, into the museum and the public spaces, but we want people to remember that we're here, because I know they're getting people are getting cooped up. So I think, plan the day. So plan a trip to walk through the gardens, come to the museum, again, reserve your ticket ahead of time, and then come through that work. What this exhibition is allowing us to do, because everything's sort of changed for us in terms of shipping and things like that related to the pandemic. So we are actually pulling objects and artworks from our own collection that are not usually out on public view. And so we're allowing the public to see a lot of really, really interesting work. And so this is really an opportune moment to come through and make a day of it. You really can walk the grounds, walk the gardens, come into the art museum, spend the day at Cranbrook. And I really feel confident that people can do so safely.
So one thing you were saying is that at the other museum, they had an employee test positive. What happens if after you open, someone on your staff tests positive as well? Would you then close down or just try to realign again?
We're working through that right now, because we're working through with the Oakland County Health Department on that, and sort of what the protocols will be. It's good that this has sort of happened, before we had guests. Typically, the protocol is that we then report it to the Oakland County Health Division and then follow their protocols for contact tracing and letting people know. So right now, that's the plan. We're certainly working with them. We have another meeting tomorrow to sort of discuss this through a little bit more, just to make sure everybody's on the same page. But there will be notifications, certainly.
Julie Fracker with the Director of Communications at the Cranbrook Academy of Art and Art Museum. If no one has been there, they definitely need to visit. It's a beautiful asset in our own backyards. Anything else you want to add before we let you go, Julie?
Nope, I would just, like I said, I know people think of Cranbrook as sort of one place, but there are several different, divisions on there. So if you go to our website, cranbrook.edu, you'll see the different divisions of Cranbrook there, and just make sure you visit each website before you plan your visit. We certainly don't want people to be disappointed if something is closed or if they don't understand the different rules and protocols that are in place. So please take that time to do that before you visit.
Well, Julie, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Julie Fracker, the Director of Communications with the Cranbrook Academy of Art and the Art Museum there. A lot of really interesting programs still going on at Cranbrook. It's always an interesting time over there. And much like when we spoke earlier with West Bloomfield Parks, Ronnie, and when we've spoken to other organizations that are putting on their programs during the summer, they're modifying it in different ways to make it safe for the public, but still have that continuity that the public expects as well.
This is a good time for us to really explore what's in our own backyards. We tend to think we need to go up north, or we need to go to the western part of the state or to Ohio to see these exciting, great things going on, when really they're right here. So take the time, be safe, explore what's now starting to reopen in our area, and enjoy what we have. If you have not been to the art museum, because I think we just assume, we think DIA, you need to go to the Cranbrook Art Museum. It really is amazing. And like she said, the good thing is they're bringing stuff out of storage. So things that maybe if you had been there previously, you're going to see some new exhibits as well.
Yeah, really interesting place. A lot of really interesting places all throughout the local area. So plenty for you to still check out despite the ongoing pandemic. I'm Tyler Kieft alongside with Ronnie Dahl. That will do it for today's edition of the Oakland County Megacast. We thank you for joining in. We also thank our guests, Ken Gutman from the Bloomfield, from the Walled Lake Consolidated School District, Joe Bauman from the Birmingham Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce, Megan Kernat from West Bloomfield Parks, Luis Garcia from the IRS, Tammy Miller from Elizabeth Lake Urgent Care, and of course Julie Fracker from Cranbrook. For Ronnie and I, that will do it for today's edition of the Megacast. We will see you back on the program tomorrow morning. Thank you for tuning in.